The massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers opened with a deep rumble that echoed through the vast hall. Ambassador Lee Tae-ho stepped inside, his black diplomatic uniform crisp and clean, despite the long journey from Earth. The chamber was enormous, built to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes from across the galaxy. High above, crystalline lights cast rainbow patterns on the polished floor. Tae-ho walked slowly toward the center of the room, his footsteps the only sound, in the sudden silence. Around him, hundreds of alien representatives watched from their elevated seats. Some had scales that glittered like emeralds. Others were made of living crystal that chimed softly when they moved. And still others floated in transparent bubbles, filled with swirling gases. The human ambassador had prepared for this moment for 3 years. He carried with him the hopes of 8 billion people back on Earth. Today, humanity would formally request membership in the Galactic Council, the governing body that controlled trade, travel, and law across 1,000 worlds. At the highest seat in the chamber sat Council Speaker Vexithara. She was a Vorthak, one of the most powerful species in known space. Her scales were deep green like old jade, and she stood nearly 9 feet tall, her yellow eyes fixed on Tae-ho with the cold stare of a predator watching prey. "So," Vexithara said, her voice carrying easily through the chamber without any need for amplification. "The humans have finally decided to crawl out of their little corner of space." Laughter rippled through the assembled representatives. "Tell us, little mammal, why should the council waste time with your primitive species?" Tae-ho felt heat rise in his cheeks but kept his voice steady. "Honored speaker, humanity brings unique perspectives and capabilities to the galactic community. We are eager to learn, to contribute, and to grow alongside our galactic neighbors." More laughter filled the chamber. A Nephrian representative, her crystal body glowing with amusement, spoke up. "Contribute? What could a species that has barely left its birth system possibly contribute to civilizations that have traveled the stars for millions of years?" "We bring determination," Tae-ho replied. "We bring adaptability, and we bring the willingness to work together for the common good." "Work together?" A Xylorian floated forward in its gas-filled sphere. "Your species cannot even achieve peace on your own world. Your history is filled with wars, violence, and destruction. Why would we invite such chaos into our ordered society?" Tae-ho had expected these arguments. Human history was indeed bloody, but it was also filled with examples of growth, learning, and cooperation. "Every species has made mistakes," he said. "We have learned from ours. We offer not perfection but the promise of growth and the strength that comes from diversity." Vexthara leaned forward in her seat. "Strength? What strength could weak mammals possess? You have no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. You live barely 100 years. Your technology is centuries behind our most backward colonies. You are emotional creatures driven by feelings rather than logic." "Our emotions are not a weakness," Tae-ho said, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. "They drive us to protect those we care about, to sacrifice for others, to build bonds that last across generations. We may not be the strongest or the fastest, but we endure. We adapt. We survive." The chamber erupted in laughter again. A small, slug-like being called out, "Survive? You have never faced real danger. Wait until you encounter the dark spaces. Between stars, the worlds where older things than your species dream in the cold. Then we will see how well you survive." Vexithara raised one clawed hand and the laughter died. "The council has heard enough. Humanity's request for membership is denied. Your species is too young, too weak, and too dangerous to themselves and others to be trusted with galactic citizenship. Furthermore," she continued, "humans are restricted to their current system until such time as they prove they can govern themselves without constant warfare. This session is concluded." Tae-ho stood in the sudden silence, feeling the weight of failure on his shoulders. Around him, the alien representatives began to file out, some still chuckling to themselves. A few looked at him with what might have been pity, but most simply ignored him as if he no longer existed. "I understand your decision," Tae-ho said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber despite the noise. "But understand this. Humanity will continue to grow, to learn, and to reach for the stars. Today you see us as children, but children grow up. We hope that when that day comes, we can still be friends. Vexithara paused at the chamber exit. Friendship is earned, human. Come back when your species has something more to offer than pretty words and foolish dreams. On Earth, in a small monitoring station outside Seoul, researcher Park Ji-woo watched the transmission with growing anger. The 25-year-old scientist had worked on the membership application for 2 years, compiling data on human achievements, culture, and potential contributions to galactic society. Arrogant lizards, Ji-woo muttered, switching off the display. Around her, other researchers and technicians sat in disappointed silence. They had all hoped for a different outcome. What do we do now? Asked Dr. Chen Wei-ming, the station director. We keep working, Ji-woo replied. We keep exploring, keep learning, keep growing. Maybe they are right that we are not ready today, but someday we will be. Far across the galaxy, in the cold void, between star systems, something ancient stirred. In the darkness where no light had shone for 1,000,000 years, massive shapes began to move. They were things of nightmare, creatures that had once terrorized the galaxy before disappearing into legend and bad dreams. The Korthani were awakening. Their bioships, living vessels of bone and sinew the size of cities, drifted silent through space. Inside them, warriors 12 feet tall flexed claws that could cut through starship armor like paper. Their black carapaces gleamed in the faint starlight, and their multiple eyes searched the darkness for prey. For eons they had slept, waiting for something they could not name, now that something called to them across the vast distances of space. An old scent, an ancient memory buried deep in their genetic code. The hunt was about to begin again. In the depths of the largest bioship, the pack leader Thekmorn tasted the cosmic winds and felt his blood quicken. Somewhere in this galaxy was something he had been searching for his entire life, something his species had lost long ago. He did not yet know that what he sought walked on 2 legs and called itself human. The greatest predators in galactic history were coming home, and they were very, very hungry. The first attack came at dawn on Kepler 442b. 3 million Vorthak settlers lived on the green world, protected by orbital defense platforms and a full battle fleet. Admiral Kwan Sora watched from her flagship as the impossible happened. The bioships appeared from nowhere, sliding out of the dark space between stars like nightmares made real. They were massive, easily the size of space stations, but they moved with fluid grace. Their hulls rippled with what looked like muscle and bone. Strange lights pulsed beneath their surfaces like giant heartbeats. Admiral, I am reading 27. Biovessels approaching the colony, reported Communications Officer Yim Tai-kyung. His voice shook as he watched the sensor readings. They are not responding to our hail frequencies. Kwan had read the old legends as a child. Every species in the galaxy had stories about the Korthani, the ancient hunters who had vanished into myth long before her people reached the stars. But the creatures attacking the colony below were very real. The orbital defense platforms opened, fire first. Massive plasma cannons that could destroy battleships sent beams of pure energy into the bioships. The weapons struck true, burning holes through the living hulls. But within minutes the wounds began to close. The bioships absorbed the energy and grew stronger. Launch all fighters, Kwan ordered. Get the evacuation transports to the surface, immediately. We need to save as many civilians as possible. The Galactic Fleet had not fought a real war in over 1,000 years. Their ships were built for ceremony and small conflicts between member worlds. They were beautiful vessels with gleaming hulls and advanced weapons, but they were not ready for the horror that was coming. The first bioship reached the planet's surface and opened like a flower blooming in reverse. From its interior came the hunters. They stood 12 feet tall, their black shells gleaming in the alien sun. 6 arms ended in claws that could cut through steel. 4 eyes missed nothing as they surveyed their new hunting ground. But they did not kill everything they found. The Korthani were selective predators. They studied each potential victim, choosing only the strongest and most challenging. The weak and the old they left behind, broken but alive to spread terror. Captain Kim Woo-bin commanded Nexus Station, the galaxy's strongest fortress. Located at the intersection of major trade routes, it housed representatives from every known species. When the attack reports started coming in, Kim could hardly believe what he was hearing. "Show me the tactical display," Kim told his security chief, Major Park So-young. The holographic map showed red markers spreading across multiple star systems. Each marker represented a world under attack by creatures that should not exist. "They are not random strikes," Park observed, studying the pattern. "Look at the targets: military academies, warrior training worlds, elite combat units. They are hunting specific types of prey." The refugees began arriving 3 days after the first attack. Ships packed with survivors told terrible stories. The Korthani did not just kill their victims. They collected trophies from the strongest fighters. They took prisoners to hunt later for sport. They turned warfare into an art form of terror. "How many ships do we have available?" Kim asked his staff. 47 combat vessels," replied Fleet Coordinator Lee Jae-sung. "But Admiral Kwan's reports say our weapons are useless against their bioships. They heal faster than we can damage them." Kim nodded grimly. Every weapon the galaxy possessed either bounced harmlessly off the Korthani vessels or was absorbed to make them stronger. Their living ships repaired damage in minutes and seemed to learn from each attack. Meanwhile, on a dead world called Haven 7, Dr. Yoon Dong-wook was making a discovery that would change everything. His archaeological team had been studying ancient ruins when the Korthani attacks began. What they found in the stone carvings defied explanation. "Professor, you need to see this immediately," called his assistant, Lee Min-jung. She stood before a massive wall covered in intricate stone carvings. "These figures look exactly like the creatures from the attack reports." Yoon studied the carved images carefully. The large beings had multiple arms and dark shells, just like the Korthani in the emergency broadcasts. But in these ancient carvings, they were not hunting or killing. They were working alongside smaller figures that could only be early humans. "This is impossible," Yoon muttered, running his hands over the stone. "These ruins are millions of years old. Humans only left Earth 300 years ago. But the evidence was carved in stone that predated known galactic civilization. Humans and Korthani living together in apparent harmony. The carvings showed them building cities, exploring space, and raising young of both species together. "Pack up everything," Yoon ordered his team. "We need to transmit this data to Earth immediately. This could change our understanding of human history." The Galactic Council was meeting in emergency session every day, but they had no answers. Speaker Vexathera called for unity among the member species, but unity meant nothing against creatures that laughed at their strongest weapons. "We have lost 17 colony worlds in 6 days, Vexathera announced to the packed chamber. "Our combined fleets cannot slow their advance. We need new strategies, new weapons, new ideas." Councillor Thesera of the Nephrian Republic raised her crystalline hand. "Perhaps we should consider asking the humans for assistance. They might have fresh perspectives on the problem." The chamber erupted in angry voices. "Humans?" hissed Councillor Grexton of the Vorthak Empire. "What could those primitive mammals do against creatures our greatest warriors cannot touch?" "They might see solutions we have missed," Thysara replied calmly. "Sometimes an outside view reveals what familiarity blinds us to." "Absolutely not," Vexathara declared. "The Council will not show weakness by begging help from species we have already rejected. We will find another way." But as the days passed, and more worlds fell, it became clear that the Council had no other way. The Korthani hunting packs moved through space like a plague, leaving empty worlds in their wake. They were getting closer to the core systems with each attack. On Earth, researcher Park Ji-woo monitored the galactic news feeds with growing alarm. The same species that had mocked humanity just weeks before were now fleeing in terror from creatures out of ancient nightmares. "If these Korthani conquer the entire galaxy, Earth will be next," she told Director Chen Wei-ming. "We need to prepare our defenses." "Prepare how?" Chen asked. "If the combined galactic fleet cannot stop them, what chance do our few ships have?" Ji-woo stared at the tactical displays showing the spread of Korthani attacks. Something about the pattern bothered her, but she could not identify what. "I do not know," she admitted. "But I have a feeling humanity's real test is coming soon." The Korthani bioships continued their advance toward the galaxy's heart. In their living chambers, ancient warriors tasted the cosmic winds and felt their blood quicken with anticipation. They were searching for something, though they could not name what they sought. Deep in the largest bioship, Pack leader Thekmorn studied star charts that his species had carried for millions of years. The maps showed hunting grounds across the galaxy, but they also showed something else. A small section of space marked with symbols that meant home and Packbinder and the ones who were lost. His ship was already changing course toward that distant region of space. Toward a small yellow star where a primitive species was just learning to reach for other worlds. Toward creatures that smelled like ancient memories and forgotten dreams. The hunt was almost over. After millions of years of searching, the Korthani were finally going home, but they did not yet understand what they would find when they arrived. Captain Shin Hye-jin was reviewing navigation charts when the bioship found them. The colony transport handbox light carried 500 families to a new world in the Kepler system. It was supposed to be a peaceful journey, giving humans a chance to expand beyond their small corner of space. The creature that intercepted them was beyond anything in human experience. It dwarfed their transport ship, easily 10 times larger than any vessel humanity had ever built. Its hull was not metal or ceramic, but something that looked disturbingly alive. Bone-white ridges ran along its surface, pulsing with inner light. "Captain, we are being scanned," reported Navigation Officer Lee Soo-jin. "But not by any technology I recognize. The reading suggests something is actually smelling us through space." Shin studied the sensor displays with growing unease. The bioship was not powering weapons or taking aggressive positions. It simply floated there, apparently studying their vessel with alien senses. "Open all communication channels," Shin ordered. "Standard first contact protocols. Let them know we come in peace." The response was immediate and terrifying. The bioship extended what looked like a living tube from its hull and attached it directly to their airlock. Before anyone could react, the tube began cutting through their outer doors with acid secretions. "All hands to emergency stations," Shin announced over the ship intercom. "Prepare for hostile boarding action." The crew rushed to defensive positions, but they all knew the truth. If these were the creatures that had destroyed entire galactic fleet battle groups, a single colony transport had no chance of fighting them off. The first Korthani warrior came through the melted airlock like death itself. It stood 12 feet tall, its black carapace gleaming under the ship's lights. 6 arms ended in claws that could slice through steel like paper. 4 alien eyes studied everything with predatory intelligence. But it did not attack. The massive creature stopped just inside the airlock and tilted its great head. It breathed deeply, sampling the ship's atmosphere through vents in its carapace. Then it made a sound that could only be described as confusion. More Korthani followed their leader, but they too stopped to test the air. Their behavior was completely different from the attack reports flooding galactic news networks. These warriors were not hunting. They were searching for something specific. Communications specialist Lee Soo-jin had studied alien contact protocols for 15 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. The Korthani seemed to communicate through scent and pheromone as much as sound. She activated every sensor array on the ship, trying to understand what was happening. "Captain," she whispered urgently, "they are reacting to our scent like they recognize it somehow. Their biochemical readings suggest familiarity rather than aggression." Chief Engineer Bae Minho watched from the engine room as more Korthani moved through the ship's corridors. They examined everything with careful attention, but they did not destroy anything. When they encountered human crew members, they stopped to study them intently. "This makes no sense," Bae told his assistant technician Oh Young-ho. "According to every report, these things are unstoppable killing machines. Why are they just looking at us?" The largest of the Korthani warriors, clearly the pack leader, made its way toward the bridge. Captain Shin stood her ground as the massive creature approached. She could smell its alien scent, something like heated metal and rich earth. The warrior stopped directly in front of her and performed an action that shocked everyone present. It lowered its great head and breathed deeply, sampling her personal scent. Then it made a series of clicks and chirps that sounded almost like recognition. "Theckamorn," the creature said in a voice like grinding stone. It pointed one clawed hand at itself, then gestured toward Shin. "Pack leader. You." "Pack leader." Shin felt her heart racing but kept her voice calm and steady. "I am Captain Shin Hyejin. This is my ship and my crew. We mean you no harm." The warrior called Theckamorn studied her for several long moments. Then it began a complex series of movements, touching its claws to its chest and then to the air around Shin. Other Korthani warriors watched these actions with what appeared to be amazement. "Captain," Li Sujin called softly from her station, "I think it is performing some kind of recognition ritual. The movement patterns match theoretical pack bonding behaviors from our xenobiology database." "Pack bonding?" Shin asked. "But we have never encountered their species before." "Maybe we have," said Dr. Kim Yoon-soo, the ship's cultural specialist. Dr. Yoon's archaeological team sent an urgent message from Haven 7 before communications were cut. Something about ancient carvings showing humans and Korthani together. The standoff continued for hours. The Korthani warriors did not harm anyone, but they also showed no signs of leaving. They seemed to be studying human behavior patterns, paying particular attention to how the crew followed Shin's orders and how they interacted with each other. Theckamorn spent most of his time observing Captain Shin directly. When she gave commands, he watched how her crew responded with immediate obedience mixed with obvious respect. When she showed concern for crew members who were frightened, he tilted his head in apparent confusion. "They are learning from us," Shin realized aloud. "They are trying to understand something about how we work together as a group." The breakthrough came when young Ensign Nam Da-jung was injured during a routine maintenance check. A power coupling exploded, sending her crashing into a bulkhead and breaking her arm. Shin immediately abandoned all other activities to ensure the ensign received proper medical care. The captain stayed with Nam in the medical bay, speaking softly to keep her spirits up while Dr. Han Se-jin treated the injury. Shin held the young woman's uninjured hand and told her stories to distract from the pain. Theckamorn watched this scene with growing intensity. He stood in the medical bay doorway for nearly an hour, his 4 eyes fixed on the display of human compassion. In Korthani, society leaders did not waste time on injured subordinates. The weak were left behind so the strong could survive. But here was a pack leader showing genuine care for someone under her command. Shin was not pretending or following protocol. Her concern was real and instinctive. The massive warrior approached the medical bed where Shin sat beside her injured crew member. For a moment, the two species studied each other across millions of years of evolutionary difference. Then Theckamorn did something that changed the course of galactic history. The 12-foot apex predator slowly lowered himself to one knee beside the human captain. He placed one massive clawed hand gently on her shoulder and bowed his great head in what could only be described as a gesture of deep respect. "Pack leader," he said in his grinding voice. "True pack leader. Ancient ways remembered." The other Korthani warriors immediately copied their leader's action. Throughout the ship, the galaxy's most feared predators knelt before humans they had never met, responding to something buried deep in their genetic memory. "What is happening?" whispered Ensign Nam from her medical bed. "I think," Captain Shin said quietly, "we just made some very powerful friends." The news of the Korthani submission spread through their bioship's neural networks and was transmitted to hunting packs across the galaxy. For the first time in millions of years, the ancient warriors had found what they were looking for. The humans were no longer alone in the cosmos, and the galaxy would never be the same. Dr. Yoon Dong-wook had not slept in 4 days. The stone tablets from Haven 7 told a story so incredible that he checked and rechecked every translation. The ancient carvings explained everything happening across the galaxy, revealing a truth that no one had imagined. Working by portable lights in the alien ruins, Yoon transmitted his findings directly to Earth and every human colony ship. The information could save lives and change the course of the war that was tearing the galaxy apart. The tablets are written in 2 languages, Yoon reported through his emergency transmitter. One is clearly an early form of human script. The other matches the communication patterns recorded from Korthani bioships. The story carved in stone reached back millions of years to a world called the First Home. According to the ancient records, early humans and Korthani had evolved together on the same planet. 2 species that should have been natural enemies but instead became perfect partners. The Korthani were apex predators, born hunters with incredible physical abilities. They were strong, fast, and deadly, capable of tracking prey across continents and taking down creatures 10 times their size. But they lacked something essential for building civilization. Humans were smaller and weaker, with no natural weapons or armor. But they possessed abilities the mighty Korthani could not replicate. They could form complex social bonds that lasted lifetimes. They could organize large groups through cooperation rather than dominance. They could see beyond immediate survival to long-term goals. The tablets call humans soul guides or packbinders, Yoon transmitted to the human colonies. We served as advisors and social coordinators for Korthani clans. We helped them organize their society and find purpose beyond endless hunting. The partnership had lasted for thousands of years and created a civilization that spanned multiple star systems. Korthani provided protection and physical strength while humans provided wisdom and social organization. Together they had built cities that were both beautiful and practical, explored space in living ships, and raised young of both species in mixed communities. But cosmic disaster had ended their golden age. A rogue black hole passed through their star system, destroying most of their worlds and scattering the survivors across the galaxy. The 2 species were separated, each forced to develop alone without their ancient partners. The Korthani became pure killing machines because they lost their human guides, Yoon explained in his report. Without us to help them find meaning and purpose, they reverted to predatory instincts. They have been searching the galaxy for millions of years, hunting for something they could not name. On the colony ship Hanbok's Light, this information explained the strange behavior Captain Shin and her crew had witnessed. The Korthani were not trying to hunt humans. They were trying to remember how to be more than just hunters. Thekmorn had learned enough human language to communicate basic ideas. Through careful translation work, linguist Choi Ye-yoon discovered that the Korthani language contained dozens of words that referred to a missing part of their society. Their word for human literally translates as those who bind the soul pack together, Choi explained to the assembled crew. They have an entire vocabulary for concepts they have not experienced in millions of years. Captain Shin worked patiently to demonstrate human leadership principles to Thekmorn and his warriors. She showed them how humans made decisions through discussion rather than simple dominance fights. She explained how human leaders served their people instead of just ruling them. The Korthani found these concepts almost impossible to understand at first. Their society had devolved into pure might-makes-right hierarchies where only the strongest survived. The idea that a leader could show weakness by helping others was completely foreign. But something in their genetic memory responded to human behavior patterns. When Chief Engineer Bay was injured during repairs and Captain Shin immediately rushed to help him, the watching Korthani felt recognition stir in the deepest parts of their minds. This is how it was in the ancient times, Thekmorn told Shin, through the translation system they had built together. Pack leaders who served the pack rather than using it. We had forgotten, but our souls remembered when we scented you. The revelation explained the seemingly random pattern of Korthani attacks across the galaxy. They had not been conquering worlds or building an empire. They had been searching for something they could not identify, driven by genetic memories of a partnership lost in the depths of time. Engineer Bay spent hours teaching Korthani warriors about human technology and cooperation methods. The creatures were incredibly intelligent, but they had been trapped in a purely predatory mindset for so long that they had forgotten how to build instead of destroy. They could create amazing things if they remembered how, Bay reported to Captain Shin. Their bioships are living examples of biotechnology beyond our understanding, but they only use them as hunting tools. The Korthani bioships themselves were evidence of lost potential. The vessels were masterpieces of biological engineering, but they served only as weapons platforms. In the ancient carvings from Haven 7, similar bioships had been cities, gardens, and homes as well as vehicles. They need guides to help them remember their full capabilities, observed Dr. Kim Yoon-soo. Without human social structure, they can only think in terms of predator and prey. The breakthrough came when Captain Shin organized a repair project for damage to the Hanbok's light. She assigned mixed teams of humans and Korthani to work together, carefully balancing their different abilities and temperaments. The Korthani, warriors, provided incredible strength and precision, able to manipulate heavy equipment with delicate care. The human crew members provided coordination and problem-solving skills, finding creative solutions to complex technical problems. Thekmorn watched his warriors working peacefully alongside humans with obvious amazement. It was the first time, in millions of years, that Korthani had built something instead of destroying it. The collaborative effort awakened memories buried so deep they felt like dreams. "This is the ancient way," he told Captain Shin as they watched the mixed teams complete their repairs ahead of schedule. "Pack strength through unity. Each contributes what they do best." Word of the successful cooperation spread through the bioship's neural networks and was transmitted to Korthani hunting packs across the galaxy. The psychic resonance of their species' rediscovered purpose began to slow the reign of terror that had gripped civilized worlds. Confused Korthani warriors paused in their attacks, responding to racial memories they did not fully understand. Something was calling to them across the vast distances of space, offering the possibility of being more than perfect killing machines. "We are receiving reports from across the galaxy," Communications Officer Lee Soo-jin told Captain Shin. "Korthani hunting packs are changing course, heading toward human colonies and trade routes, but they are not attacking. Instead, the bioships were broadcasting simple messages in broken human languages. The translations were crude, but the meaning was clear. Seek pack leaders. Find soul guides, make whole again." The ancient partnership between humans and Korthani was beginning to reform after millions of years of separation. But this time, it would have to develop in a galaxy that had never seen such cooperation between species. The Galactic Council would have to face a new reality. The weak mammals they had rejected were about to become the most important species in known space, backed by the loyalty of creatures that could destroy entire star systems. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and it would never shift back. "Pack is forming again," Thekmorn told Shin as they stood together on the bioship's living bridge. "Ancient bonds remember, soul guides found, Korthani whole again." Shin looked out at the stars and smiled. "We are all whole again," she replied. "The galaxy is about to become a very different place." She was right. The age of human expansion was about to begin, and it would change everything. The moment that changed galactic history began with an accident. Chief Engineer Bae Min-ho was working alone in the ship's lower maintenance section when an old power coupling finally gave up. The explosion filled the sealed compartment with toxic gas and jammed the emergency exit. Captain Shin Hee-jin did not hesitate when the emergency alarm sounded. She grabbed a portable breathing mask and emergency tools, then crawled into the damaged maintenance tunnel to reach her trapped engineer. The passage was barely wide enough for a human, filled with sharp metal debris and leaking radiation. Thekmorn and his Korthani warriors watched this rescue attempt with growing fascination. In their society, a pack leader would never risk personal safety for a subordinate. The strong survived by abandoning the weak when necessary, but this human leader was deliberately putting herself in mortal danger to save someone who served under her. "Pack leader sacrifices for pack member," Thekmorn observed to his second-in-command, a female warrior called Shavam. "This behavior contradicts all survival logic. Yet it feels correct in ways I cannot explain," Shavam replied, her 4 eyes fixed on the rescue effort. "Ancient memories stir when I watch them work together." Captain Shin reached Engineer Bae just as his emergency air supply ran out. Without thinking, she removed her own breathing mask and placed it over his unconscious face. Now both humans were breathing the toxic atmosphere that had already poisoned Bae. The entire human crew mobilized to save their captain and engineer. Medical Officer Dr. Han Se-jin prepared emergency treatment equipment. Navigator Lee Soo-jin rerouted ship power to ventilate the contaminated areas. Even civilian passengers helped carry supplies and clear debris. Thekmorn had never witnessed such coordinated group effort to save individuals. In the harsh reality of galactic survival, such behavior should have led to species extinction. Yet humans had not only survived but flourished using these apparently backward principles. The pack serves the leaders, but the leaders serve the pack. The Korthani pack leader murmured, finally understanding something that had been lost to his species for millions of years. Captain Shin emerged from the maintenance tunnel, carrying the unconscious Bay in her arms. She was exhausted, poisoned, and badly injured from crawling through sharp debris. But her first words were concern for her engineer's condition rather than her own pain. "Get him to medical bay immediately," she ordered Dr. Han, then collapsed as the toxic chemicals finally overwhelmed her system. What happened next sent shockwaves through both species and across the entire galaxy. Thekmorn approached the unconscious human captain where she lay on the deck. This small, physically weak creature had just demonstrated something that challenged every assumption of Korthani civilization. She had shown true strength not through dominance or violence, but through sacrifice and service. The 12-foot predator looked down at Shin's still form and felt something awaken in the deepest levels of his genetic memory. This was what his species had lost millions of years ago. This was what they had been searching for across the stars without understanding what they sought. Slowly and deliberately, Thekmorn lowered himself to one knee beside the human captain. He placed one massive clawed hand gently on her shoulder, careful not to damage her fragile form. Then he bowed his great head in a gesture of profound respect and recognition. "Pack leader," he said in his grinding voice, the words carrying across the ship's communication system. "True pack leader. Ancient ways remembered. I serve." The declaration was automatically transmitted through the bioship's neural networks to every Korthani vessel in the galaxy. The psychic resonance of their greatest pack leader's submission to a human created waves of recognition throughout their species' collective consciousness. On worlds across the galaxy, Korthani hunting, packs suddenly stopped their attacks. Warriors who had known only killing and conquest felt genetic memories awakening, reminding them of an ancient time when they had been more than predators. The scene aboard the Hanbok's Light was captured by emergency transmissions that reached every corner of known space. Ambassador Lee Tae-ho, now coordinating refugee efforts from Earth, watched in amazement as the galaxy's most feared creature knelt before an unconscious human woman. "This is impossible," breathed Council Speaker Vexithera from the emergency session chambers on Nexus Station. "Those creatures bow to no one. They are pure killing instinct made flesh." But the evidence was being broadcast across every news network in the galaxy. The mighty Korthani, apex predators that had terrorized countless worlds, were kneeling in submission to humans. Within hours, reports flooded in from human settlements throughout space. Massive bioships were approaching colonies, but instead of attacking, they were broadcasting simple messages in broken human languages. "Seek pack leaders. Serve true guides. Make pack whole again." Captain Shin regained consciousness in the ship's medical bay 12 hours later. The first thing she saw was Thekmorn standing guard beside her bed. The massive warrior had not moved from her side during her entire recovery period. When she opened her eyes, he immediately knelt again beside her medical bed. "Pack leader lives," he said with unmistakable relief in his alien voice. "Korthani serves. Always serves true pack leader." "I do not understand," Shin said weakly, her throat still raw from the toxic gas. "Why are you kneeling? You are stronger than any human could ever be." "Strength is not size or claws or ability to kill," Thekmorn replied carefully, using the human words he had learned. "True strength is binding the pack together, making whole from separate parts. This strength, humans possess. Korthani lost long ago but remembers now." Through the ship's communication system came reports from across the galaxy. Human colonies were making peaceful contact with Korthani hunting fleets. The feared predators were approaching not as conquerors, but as seekers searching for something they had lost in the depths of time. Engineer Bay, recovered enough to walk, entered the medical bay and saw the massive Korthani warrior kneeling beside his captain's bed. "Thank you," he said simply to Thekmorn. "You helped save our lives." The warrior tilted his great head. "Pack members help pack members. Ancient law, natural law. We remember now because soul guides teach us again." The transformation was spreading beyond the individual ship. Across the galaxy, human settlements reported that approaching Korthani fleets were not attacking, but requesting permission to land. The ancient predators were seeking to renew a partnership that had been broken for millions of years. "The galaxy is about to change in ways no one can predict," Captain Shin told her assembled crew. "We are no longer just explorers or colonists. We have become something much more important." Communications Officer Lee Soo-jin was monitoring transmissions from the Galactic Council. "Captain, they are requesting immediate talks with human representatives. Council Speaker Vexathara is calling for emergency sessions." Shin smiled weakly from her medical bed. The same aliens who had rejected humanity as primitive and weak were now desperately seeking human help to deal with creatures that human compassion had somehow tamed. "Tell them we will consider their request," Shin replied. "But first we have more important work to do." She looked at Thekmorn, who was still kneeling beside her bed despite her protests that he should stand. "We need to learn how to be pack leaders again, do we not?" "Yes," the ancient warrior replied. "Korthani remembers strength through unity, remembers purpose beyond hunting. Pack guides teach ancient ways in new times." The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the most dangerous predators in known space submitted to the weakest species. But it was not weakness that had earned this submission. It was a strength so fundamental that even perfect killing machines recognized and respected it. The ancient bond between humans and Korthani was being reforged, and with it, the entire balance of galactic civilization was shifting forever. In TUI, her personal log, Captain Shin wrote, "They thought we were too weak to deserve membership in their galactic community. They could not see that our compassion was not weakness but the greatest strength in the universe. Today, the strongest creatures in known space knelt before that strength. Tomorrow, we will teach the galaxy what it truly means to be civilized." The age of human influence was about to begin. 6 months after first contact with the Korthani, the galaxy was learning to live in a new reality. The species that had been rejected as primitive mammals were now the most important mediators in known space, protected by creatures that could destroy entire star systems. Admiral Kwan Sora stood on the bridge of her flagship, but the determination was no longer recognizable as a purely human vessel. The ship had been merged with a Korthani bioship through techniques that neither species could have achieved alone. Living bone and advanced metal formed corridors where human crew members worked alongside 12-foot warriors. "Admiral, we have another mediation request," reported Communications Officer Yim Tae-kyung. "The Crystalline Confederacy and the Gas Giant Alliance are fighting over mining rights in the Horsehead Nebula region." Kwan nodded calmly. In the past, such disputes would have escalated into trade wars or actual combat. Now both sides were requesting human arbitrators backed by Korthani. Enforcement, knowing that the decision would be fair and final. "Send Captain Park and her mediation team," Kwan ordered. "Standard protocols. No weapons, no threats, and all parties must accept the human judgment as binding." The transformation had not been smooth for everyone. Many species resented humanity's sudden rise to galactic importance. But when the alternative was facing angry Korthani bioships, most civilizations chose cooperation over conflict. Commander Kim Woo-bin ran the galaxy's first truly integrated station on Nexus. Humans, Korthani, and dozens of other species worked together in ways that would have been impossible just months before. The secret was human social instincts guided by millions of years of evolution in cooperative groups. "Integration is proceeding faster than our most optimistic projections," Kim reported to Earth Command. "Crime rates have dropped by 60%. Trade disputes are resolved in days instead of years. Even ancient enemy species are learning to work together under human guidance." The success of Nexus Station had led to requests from across the galaxy for similar integrated communities. Humans found themselves serving as social architects, helping other species learn cooperation methods that came naturally to human families and tribes. Dr. Yoon Dong-wook had become the galaxy's leading authority on ancient human Korthani civilization. His archaeological expeditions, now protected by bioship escorts, were discovering evidence of their shared past on hundreds of worlds throughout known space. "We have found ruins on over 300 planets," Yoon reported to the Galactic Archaeological Council. The ancient partnership was far more extensive than anyone imagined. At its peak, human-guided Korthani civilization controlled nearly half the galaxy. The discoveries were completely rewriting galactic history books. The Korthani had not been mindless destroyers in ancient times. Under human social guidance, they had been builders, explorers, and protectors. Their bioships had served as mobile cities carrying mixed populations to establish new colonies. Captain Shin Hye-jin commanded a hybrid vessel that had grown from the original bioship that found the Handbox light. Thekmorn served as her second officer, their partnership becoming the model for human Korthani cooperation throughout the expanding fleet. "Captain, we are approaching the Omega Sector," reported navigator Lee Soo-jin. "Long-range sensors show 12 Korthani bioships already in the region, waiting for our arrival." The Omega Sector had been forbidden territory for thousands of years. Ancient radiation storms and gravitational anomalies made it deadly for conventional spacecraft. But hybrid bioships could navigate the dangerous region safely, opening entirely new areas of space for exploration. "Take us in," Shin ordered. "Let us see what secrets the ancients left for us to discover." The Galactic Council had been forced to completely restructure their government or become irrelevant. Speaker Vexathara found herself negotiating with beings she had dismissed as primitive just months before. "We must accept the new reality," Vexathara announced to the emergency council session. "Humans may have seemed weak when they first approached us, but they have become the foundation of galactic stability. We need them far more than they need us." The irony was obvious to everyone present. The species they had rejected as too emotional and weak had become the force that held galactic civilization together. Human social abilities proved more valuable than any weapon or technology. Ambassador Lee Tae-ho entered the same council chambers, where he had been humiliated half a year before. But this time, he walked flanked by Korthani honor guards and wearing the ceremonial robes of a galactic mediator. "The Human Colonial Union accepts the Council's invitation to full membership," Tae-ho announced to the packed chamber. "We also accept the responsibility of mediating conflicts and guiding the continued integration of galactic society." The vote for human membership was unanimous. No species dared oppose humanity when Korthani warriors stood ready to enforce human decisions across the galaxy. But the most important changes were happening at the personal level. On thousands of worlds, humans were teaching other species about cooperation, loyalty, and the strength that comes from caring about others rather than just competing with them. Park Ji-woo, now director of the Galactic Integration Project, reviewed the latest reports with satisfaction. Crime rates continue dropping on worlds with human Korthani populations. Trade efficiency is up 40%. Even species that have been enemies for centuries are learning to work together. "We are not conquering the galaxy," Ji-woo wrote in her quarterly report to Earth. "We are healing it. The Korthani lost their direction when they lost us millions of years ago. Other species never learned the cooperation skills that humans developed through evolution. Now, we can teach them." Chief Engineer Bae Min-ho worked in the living engine rooms of hybrid bioships, where human technology merged seamlessly with Korthani biological systems. The combined vessels were faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything either species could build separately. "This is only the beginning," Bae told his mixed engineering teams. "Together, we can explore regions of space that were impossible to reach before. We can build things that neither species could imagine alone." The greatest transformation was in the Korthani themselves. Guided by human pack leaders, they were rediscovering abilities they had forgotten during millions of years. As pure predators, Their bioships were growing new organs for creation and construction, rather than just hunting and destruction. Thekmorn stood beside Captain Shin as they watched their integrated crew work together in perfect harmony. Human intuition guided Korthani strength. Korthani endurance supported human creativity. The ancient partnership was not just restored but improved for a new era. The old memories are complete now, Thekmorn told Shin as they observed the ship's daily operations. Korthani remembers what we were meant to be, not just hunters, but guardians. Not just killers, but protectors of the greater pack. Shin smiled, as she watched human children playing with young Korthani in the bioship's living garden spaces. The vessels had grown these recreational areas themselves, responding to the crew's need for beauty and life among the stars. The galaxy is becoming one great pack, she replied. We are all family now, no matter what species we were born as. The transformation was spreading to every corner of known space. Human colony ships continued their expansion, but now they carried mixed crews exploring regions that had been forbidden for millions of years. Behind them came traders, builders, and families who would make new worlds into homes. Ambassador Teho made a final entry in his personal log. They scorned us as weak, emotional creatures unfit for galactic civilization. They could not understand that our emotions were not weakness but strength. Our ability to form bonds, to care for others, to sacrifice for the good of the pack made us not the weakest species in the galaxy, but the most necessary. We did not conquer the stars through force. We claimed them through love. And in doing so, we taught the galaxy what it truly means to be civilized. The human colonial expansion continued across the galaxy, but it was an expansion of inclusion rather than conquest. An era where the smallest and weakest had become the teachers of the strong. An era where compassion proved more powerful than any weapon. In the vast shipyards orbiting Earth, new bioships grew under the guidance of human engineers and Korthani bioformers. These vessels would carry crews of every species toward discoveries that would reshape understanding of the universe itself. The galaxy had entered a new age, the age of cooperation, the age of the great pack that included every thinking being under the stars. And at its heart were the humans who had been rejected as too weak to matter. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter in celebration of this new dawn of galactic civilization.